Hey there you, and welcome to a crazy old battle that we've got for you today, as the Death Corps of Krieg take up the mantle of defense to hold this bridge against just over 2 million orcs. Can the Kriegers and their artillery hold the position, or will the green mushroom tide claim all in its path? But before we do kick off today's battle, firstly I just want to say thank you very much for clicking on the video in the first place, and if you do find yourself coming here often, why not subscribe? You're already coming back anyway. And if you want to get your hands on some sweet Warhammer inspired merch, go ahead and check out the ChaoticPinky store. But for now, it's time to cry havoc and let slip the dogs of war. Here we go then, ladies and gentle giants of the internet. I've got a feeling that this one's going to get out of hand pretty darn quickly. This Imperial artillery is already raining down upon the advancing Orky horde here. You can see that we've got a bunch of autocannons at the front line as well. They are going to be focusing fire on this bridge pretty dang heavily as the orcs try to penetrate through the Death Corps of Krieg's defenses here. We've got just under 2.4 million attacking orcs with about 129,000 defenders here. So unfortunately, the Imperial Guard are extremely outnumbered, but never, ever outgunned here. As you can see, that artillery already just absolutely created these giant holes within the Orky horde, which are quickly filled in by the reinforcements surging behind them. Last cannon fire is ripping across the valley here, or the riverway, whichever way you want to say it, and it's just slaughtering the orcs on the other side. Already the bodies are really starting to pile up here as the orcs make their desperate charge across this narrow bridge, quite frankly. There's a lot of orcs to get through there. Death Corps of Krieg here moving up with shovels at the ready, forming a defensive line to stop the Orky advance dead in its tracks. Dead being the operative word here. Look at this. Oh my god, he's gone flying really high and down into the water. Now, interestingly, some of these orcs can actually survive the artillery hit, so what's going to happen is they'll land underneath the water here and slowly start making their way up the embankment to the other side. Here we go. You can see a couple of the jetpack troops here. The Storm Boys are rolling right into the center of the Kriegers with their shovels there. Now, one fatal mistake here, though, that the Imperial defenders have made. There is another bridge on the far right-hand side that is completely undefended. And look at this. The orcs already making a break for it. This is going to leave the Imperial flank woefully exposed, so Imperials are going to have to rotate some troops around to that position at some point during this fight. Meanwhile, we're just watching this artillery hammer home into these densely packed crowds of orcs here as they try to advance across the bridge. Already, extreme losses have been had. 47,000 losses to the orcs, only 500 to the Imperials. Defenders advantage there, ladies and gents. The orcs have got no other way to get across. Now, a couple of things I want to see in this fight, actually, that would be really nice. It's a corpse bridge. That is a bridge made out of corpse. So, if the orcs can pile up enough dead, they will be able to traverse the river in different areas. The other thing I want to see this crisp blue water turn deep blood red by the end of the fight. That'd be really nice to see. Look at this, though. The Kriegers here storming forward, not letting the orcs take any inch of ground, not without extreme losses, and it looks like that artillery is focusing heavily on the bridge as well. Every now and then, look at that. Thousands of orcs sent scattering through the air. Oh god, I love the artillery in this game. It's just the king of any battlefield, artillery is. Now, there's only 20 artillery cannons on this as well, so there's not like there's loads of them, but there is enough there to deal significant damage. And here we go. We can see the Orky army here coming into that side flank. Lots of Death Corps of Krieg moving up with the shovels, trying to plug at this defensive line now. And hopefully the Imperials will have enough forces to commit to this side of the bridge. But looking at the main bridge itself, the orcs are going to struggle to get through this. They're going to have to really start piling up them troops. They're going to have to get the Dakar in here and start taking out some of them Imperial positions. Meanwhile, Lehman Russies just laying it down. Absolute beast mode covering fire here. The battle cannons hammering home into that orc horde, causing hundreds of losses per cannon shot probably, because they got some nice AoE bursts here. Again, that artillery really proving the king so far. 81,000 losses to the orcs. Don't worry, there's only another 2.3 million to go here. The orcs, though, are making some serious progress on this side. just storming reinforcements across that bridge. But is it going to be enough? Because that is a lot of Kriegers that have come to face them on this side. Again, right behind them, Imperial conscripts with their autoguns, laying down that covering fire, trying to push back this Orky horde. And so far, actually, it's looking like they're having a bit of success here. Sheer weight of numbers on the Imperial Guard side is really having an effect here. The Orks not able to get enough units across that narrow bridge to really form any solid defensive attacking position here. They really need to establish a foothold and to be able to start pushing these Kriegers back. You could also do with some of their Dakar moving up to this position. But look at that. Look at the size of the horde that is actually trying to get across this bridge now. And the numbers are quite insane. Look, the bridges do allow for a decent amount of Orks to come across all at once here. But it's just not enough right at this moment to take out the Kriegers. Imperials only 2,000 losses. Again, defenders advantage there. But they are seriously outnumbered in this fight. That artillery is going to be of a vital substance in this fight. Let's just go look under the water again here. I want to see how many Orks are actually under here trying to fight. Okay, so it looks like there might even be a couple of Kriegers who've got under here. Who knew their gas masks could allow them to fight underwater? Yeah, I don't think that's a thing. But, you know, in this game it sort of is. I love this, though. It sort of looks like an amphibious landing by the Orks. Oh, God, a Megan up there coming out to the water. That was kind of freaky. Meanwhile, insane losses are being had on the central bridge here. Looks like the Kriegers might actually have enough units here to push across the other side. That'll be interesting for the Kriegers to establish a foothold on the opposite side of the bridge. I don't know if that's going to be to their tactical advantage or not, but it sure would be cool to watch. Meanwhile, on the opposite flank over here, more Ork reinforcements are coming in. But again, it just doesn't seem to be enough to hold the Kriegers in place. The Kriegers here are sweeping over them like a tide of happy gas mask noises. And the Orks struggling to maintain their foothold. If they get pushed back to the bridge, again, serious losses could start to ensue, bit by bit, chewing away at that Orky horde. 135,000 losses now for the Orks to 3,000 losses from the Imperials. Yep, this is going to turn into an absolute meat grind. I can't believe how many Orks are actually trying to get across this one bridge. It's kind of insane. But on this side, oh, there we go. Look at that. A lovely red substance is starting to appear in the water here. Let's go take a look. Because surely the bodies are starting to build up. Yeah, there we go. We can see them piling up on the shoreline there. And the Orks just taking brutal fire here from the Imperial side. And there's not much they can do about it, apart from to try and get across that river as quickly as possible. We've got a couple of knobs who've moved up to the front, as well as mega knobs here now, mixed in with the Storm Boys. Now, these guys, the mega knobs, they've got these massive pneumatic claws on them, which deal AoE damage. So the melee troops for the Imperial Guard are going to start taking some serious losses should they get into a toe-to-toe fight with the Orks here. Meanwhile, the rest of the Orks waiting quite patiently here to get their turn to get to the front line as that artillery still pounds them. Though, luckily for the Orks, at the back line at least, most of the artillery seems to be focused on this side, just firing it down on them as they're trying to make their way around this little cliff. Look at this. So many losses for the Orks. It's absolutely fantastic to see. Oh, this is going to turn into a brutal fight. Already it's a meat grinder. We're barely a few minutes in now. So we're probably going to have a couple of time lapses in this because it's probably going to be quite a long fight. Look at this. What's going on over here? There's a couple of Orks trying to get under the water. Yeah, it does actually look like a few Orks there were trying to advance under the water. Not the smartest idea the Orks have ever had. You know, it's not like they have scuba gear. And actually, that's a question for you all out there. Some of you who are more up to your knowledge on Warhammer. Do the Orks have, like, underwater? I know they have submarines. I've seen them, but, like, Orks who have, like, scuba gear. Is that a thing? I'm sure it has to be. Probably some of, like, more like the commando units and stuff like that have probably got some sort of gear that they believe helps them underwater. But yeah, that's something I've never actually really heard of. I can imagine that the Imperial Guard have got that kind of thing, because, you know, we do in this century, so the Imperial Guard must have it, but whether the Orks have thought of that, I don't know. Can you really get a decent amount of Dakar underwater? I don't think so. So maybe not. but this is gonna be a long and a brutal fight here for the Orcs. Amazingly, they're actually being pushed back. Well, I say amazingly, look at all the firepower that's coming across the river here, slamming home into that Orky front line as they're scattered high into the air doing somersaults. The Orc Olympic team here in full swing, getting the practice in. Let's have a look on this side. So yeah, Imperials are pushing them back ever so slowly. You can see that there's just not enough reinforcements here coming in for the Orcs. But what they have done is managed to take away a huge amount of Kriegers from the main defensive line here. So I've got a feeling, should this line start to falter over here, I think the Kriegers are really going to struggle to actually reinforce this. So this might be all that she wrote for the Krieger reinforcements on this side. The conscripts and the Lehman Russies are going to have to keep up the firepower from the opposite end here, as well as the artillery. Now, should the Orcs get enough Dakar up here, they might be able to start taking that artillery out. We can already see that a couple of them have been taken out already. So Dakar is having some effect here, little by little. God, look at that. There's just so many Orcs. Look at that horde. It's absolutely ridiculous how many Orcs are actually out there. They're taking so much firepower. I really want to see what the bodies are going to look like underneath this, because I can't remember what the terrain looks like. So I've got this feeling already that half of this terrain here, half of the bumps that we see are probably Orc corpses all piled up nice. Let's get back under the water and see how we're getting on over here. Okay, there is now no longer a bed to this river. It is covered in Orc corpse. Let's have a look on this side. Yeah, a similar sort of effect over here. Just Orc corpses everywhere. Actually, look at that. That's kind of interesting. If you look through the bridge here, we can actually somewhat see underneath the water, just because of how the physics work in this game. But yeah, that's kind of interesting. You can almost see all the bodies there piling up. Speaking of piling up, the bridge is also completely littered in Orc corpse as well now. 240, coming up to 250,000 losses. Looks like the Imperials are pushing the Orcs back into a foothold position here on the bridge. That is not good for the Orcs. The Orcs need to bring up some Dakar here to help out. Get a little bit of fire support going, guys. Come on. Yeah, just not enough. Look at this. They're trickling in bit by bit. But luckily for them, a couple of Mega Nobs are in amongst this. Let's have a look at this guy go to town over here. Oh, he got taken down by a shovel. Oh, that is impressive. An Orc Mega Nob there, taken down by a shovel. I don't think I'd ever seen that before. Look at this. No matter where you go in the Imperial line, they are just laying down cover across there. Look at these combat lines as well, where the Orcs tried to advance. The Orcs have really been pushed back quite far there. But little by little, we are starting to turn this lovely crystal water into blood red. Again, Orcs just taking stupendous losses, even just trying to get to that bridge. Trying to move up them reinforcements, but there's just no room to maneuver with a horde this big. The only maneuvering they can do really is to try and find another bridge, but unfortunately for the Orcs, there is no other bridges close to this area, so there's only these two ways to get across it. And now, actually, look at this though. The Kriegers running out of reinforcements on the bridge. This could be the Orcs' big break. Should they actually manage to take out the rest of our shovel boys over here, they're now going to be able to push across that bridge. And here we go. Are we going to get a surge? We're going to start getting focused fire onto the bridge. And definitely now, a lot of the Imperial Guard are actually focusing fire on the rest of the horde that aren't even on the bridge here. So you can see that on both sides, they are laying the smackdown onto these guys over here. Is that going to be enough to keep the Orcs from crossing the bridge? Pushing Nobs and Storm Boys across here. And again, luckily for the Imperials, we've got these little trickles of Guardsmen coming up to that front line. And they are delaying the Orcs ever so slightly. Are we actually starting to... I think we're actually starting to build an artificial bridge here. Yeah, look at all these corpses that have piled up now under here. So the Orcs, bit by bit, are starting to build that corpse bridge, which will be extremely useful. The more attack angles that they can have, the better here for the Orcs. Let's get back over to the other side now and see how the Imperials are getting on over here. Because we don't really have that many conscripts actually providing any covering fire here. And we don't have any tanks or artillery covering this side of the field. So the Orcs' sheer melee prowess here really can come into effect using them knobs and mega knobs here to try and push through this defensive line that the Kriegers have put out. And I've got a feeling, should the Orks actually manage to take out these Kriegers and start to push across this, that is going to be a deadly flank that they've opened up right into the firepower there of the Imperial Guard line. So we can also see we do actually have less guns over here as well, given to the Kriegers, using them Hellbore rifles. They're pretty effective as well, so they're using like a charged shot, the Hellbores do, to fire off these bigger rounds, which can really take down an Ork pretty dang effectively. Pretty good against Tyranids too as well, in my experience. Look at this. Oh, it is an abject slaughter here for the Orks. 316,000 losses, ladies and gents. And the meat grinder isn't chewing. So many of them have been thrown through the air. There's something really satisfying about watching artillery just go to town on hordes like this. Look at that. Hundreds of Orks are sent volleying through the air with each blast that goes off. And there's at least 20 blasts a minute here. So that is a significant amount of Orks that are dead before they even saw combat. Which is sad for them, you know, Gork and Mork are not going to be happy about that at all. But the Orks, undeterred by the sheer losses that they're taking here, are still trying to push across that bridge. 331,000 losses to the Imperial Guards at 12,000 over here. So yeah, Imperial losses really are starting to mount up bit by bit. But I've got to say, I'm really impressed by the Kriegers on this side. Able to push back the Orks really effectively, actually. It's kind of surprising at how well the Kriegers are doing here, considering they're up against some of the Orks' finest that they have to field. The Mega Knobs are easily able to kill, what, maybe 5 to 6 troops all at once? So yeah, as long as we've got enough reinforcements over that side, hopefully they will be able to hold that. Let's have a look. Is our artillery still alive? It is. So the Orky Daki yet has not been brought to bear upon that. Let's go have a look at the auto cannons, which was somewhere down here on the front. It might be a bit hard to find them in this gaggle of infantry that we've got. Actually, it kind of looks like maybe they've been taken out. I'm not able to see any of them here. So yeah, it looks like the auto cannons may have been taken out early doors here by the Orks, which is good news for them, because them autocannons are able to rip through multiple Orks at once, just firing the gigantic shells that they do. So yeah, it'll tear through one Ork and maybe 2 others behind it. So very useful for the Orks to have been able to take them out. They just need to start using these Storm Boys more effectively, push across that bridge and really take the fight to the Imperials here, who've only got 92,000 defenders, and the numbers are dwindling very, very fast here. But what we're going to do very quickly is we're going to hit our first little time-lapse camera here, probably, what, 5-10 minutes, something like that, and see what the Orky progress is going to be like after it. But I want to catch some of these artillery hits here. So, we'll be back in a second. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Let's go have a look at the Orky progress here. I mean, the Imperials have been making some really good progress. 640,000 kills and now solidly under their belt with to 26,000 losses, which is not bad for the defenders. But you can see the Orky Storm Boys here really struggling to push across that bridge. Let's go have a look under the water as well. I want to see how we're getting on with our body piles. I mean, that's a pretty horrific. Oh, look at that in the background. Oh, that is so cool. Watching all the bodies slide down. It's like a black and white show from the early days of cinema. But yeah, the Orks have been taking a lot of losses here. This is actually an artificial landmass that we've made. Look at this. The Kriegers are literally standing on the corpses of the orcs to try and get across the water themselves here. That's pretty horrific for the orcs, but let's go have a look how we're getting on over here. Oh, look at this! The orcs did it! They managed to break through the Krieger line over here. Reinforcements are once again pouring in across this bridge, and the Imperial Guard have had to dedicate yet another battalion here of Kriegers to the front line to try and stop this Orky advance. This is really good news for the orcs. The more and more units that they distract from that main line, the better. And looking over here, I can see that the Orky Daka is coming into effect. Look at this, laying down covering fire into the side of the Kriegers here on the opposite side of the bridge, who are going to be taking heavy losses from that. The Orky Daka is nothing to be sniffed at. Very, very strong. Again, look at all this that the Imperials have had to commit to this fight. That's quite a lot of units that they've had to do here. That's a lot of conscripts that have come over this side. I guess they're not making the same mistake that they made last time. They're not undercommitting forces. But yeah, the orcs really managed to establish a foothold here. Let's go take a look at this body pile as well, because look at this. Absolutely magnificent stuff here. Looks like the orcs did take quite a few losses, though, to be able to achieve this goal. So they really need to hold on to that foothold. And look, our army is thinning out rather rapidly on this side of the field here, ladies and gents. Will the orcs have enough troops here, though, to push through and gain a victory? That is the true question. There's 700,000 losses now, only 65,000 defenders. They are being chewed through bit by bit, and you can see a lot of Orky Daka has once again built up on the opposite side of the river, now adding their weight of firepower into this mix. And it looks like all the artillery's been taken out. Look at this, there's no more artillery left for the Imperial Guard. All the gunner crews have been killed, the artillery disabled, the Orky Daka doing its job. So all these little puffs of smoke that you can see on the opposite side of the field, that is all the Orky firepower laying down its covering fire. And the Imperials are going to be feeling that in the morning, I can tell you. But luckily, we've still got a lot of lemon Russes here on that front line, concentrating firepower into the orcs. How are we getting on this side, chaps? The Kriegers are surging up forward once again. They really want to capture this bridge point again. They don't like the fact that the orcs are marauding across their open flank here. And who can blame them? Now, the orcs really need to bring up a lot of Daka to their side. Look, I love this as well. Just watching the units filter in like this and get onto the bridge and then suddenly pick up speed. I don't know, there's something really satisfying about watching that kind of stuff. But yeah, I like this as well. How many orcs are taking a brutal punishment before they're like a mile away from the front line over here. How's the horde looking in general? Absolutely gigantic. What the heck? We've got orc corpses all the way back here. That artillery really was doing some work. That's kind of crazy. But the chaps are struggling to get across the bridge. There's no denying that whatsoever. But slowly but surely, the corpses are building up. Look at this. We're a little bit away, so we're across the first loop at least. Only another 4 to go here. 5 realistically, but you know. That's going to take a lot of orc corpses to be able to do that. They might actually be able to bridge across this way before anything else. God, we can't even see in the water now. I want to go back to that, though. I really like that. There's something really satisfying about watching that. But, yeah, I really want to know if the orcs can hold on to this bridge segment over this side. If it, once again, they can chew their way through the Krieger reinforcements, they'll have a really good chance here of being able to attack that flank. And once, I believe, this group of Kriegers is dealt with, these shovel dudes here, I think that's pretty much it for melee troops. Let's go have a look. Maybe on the back line over here. Okay, so yeah, we have got maybe a couple of thousand more shovel Kriegers on the back lines over here, but they're going to have to come out of position and maneuver their way over to the other side of the battlefield, and that is going to be tough for them to do. Meanwhile, last fire is just strafing the Orky horde over their side. And without that artillery now, things are looking a little bit dicey for our Imperial Guard friends. Down to just under 60,000 defenders now. 32 have been eradicated. But the orcs are also starting to run out of reinforcemements. Only 1.5 million orcs left on the field here. 800,000 losses are rapidly approaching for the orcs. Oh gosh, big tree getting in the way. But yeah, I really want to see if the Imperials can push this back and if the Orks can counter that push. Because like I said, once these Kriegers are gone, it's pretty much hunting season for the Orks on this flank. The conscripts can be quickly overwhelmed. And again, we've got the firepower coming from the Orky side. I've also noticed as the river's filling up with blood as well, it's also starting to overflow here. That is kind of crazy. So we are literally terraforming on this map at the moment. We're adding our weight of goo to the water, and the water is slowly but surely rising. Look at this. Absolute madness here. Just this extension of the land in orc corpses that has been created by the Imperials. Imperials do a really good job of holding this in position. Sadly though, that concentrated firepower proving too much for the Storm Boys right now. Maybe when the Mega Nobs start arriving onto the field there, that might be the turning point. Meanwhile, the rest of the Orks trying to lay that covering fire down, taking out as many of the Imperial Guardsmen as they can, and you can see they're having quite a decent fire of effect over here. The conscripts taking heavy losses to the Orky Daka. I love this as well. Just this line of Kriegers over here, just filling in the middle. Obviously with the last rifles having that superior range there to the standard auto guns. But yeah, this is going to be the turning point of the battle, I feel, on this side of the field here. The Orks, should they break through the Kriegers, that is going to be deadly. So again, we're going to hit a little time lapse here because we're really waiting for a breakthrough either end. I think we're going to keep an eye on this side because it's pretty safe to say I don't think the Orks are going to break through on the far bridge anytime soon. But let's see if the Orks can actually manage to smash their way through the Imperial line over this side. So yeah, maybe keep the camera over here. We should be able to see the Orks from here. Right, we'll be back in a minute. Well, ladies and gents, it looks like the Orks have finally managed to do it here. After just cresting over 1 million losses, they've finally beaten their way through the gas mask shovel-wielding nutters known as the Death Corps of Krieg. And now they are trying to plow their way through the rest of the Imperial conscript line over here. We've got a few stragglers left over this side, but pretty much nothing else stands in their way now apart from sheer weight of firepower. Is that going to be enough to hold the Orks back over here? Well, we'll have to wait and see for that. Let's go back over to the other side. Have the Orks made any progress over here? Okay, so yeah, we've now officially covered up one arch completely. The second one is almost covered up. The bodies really are starting to pile up ever so slowly over here. But yeah, it doesn't look like the Orks have actually made that much progress. Bit by bit, Kriegers are making their way to that front line again, trying to slow down the Ork advance. Just, it's mental really when you think about it. Look at the bodies that they're going over here. Just hundreds and hundreds of Orks all piled up on the bridge. I mean, there's not enough room on the bridge anymore, which is why all the corpses are now sliding off the bridge into the gooey water below. By the way, look at this now. There is virtually no blue left in this area whatsoever. We've managed to turn almost the entirety of the river blood red. And this is what I mean. Look at this. The amount of blood that has now been poured into that river, it's overflown. We've actually started making and flooding all these flatlands around here. I mean, these guys over here must be happy as Larry. We've irrigated all their farmland for them. Let's go back over here, though. I want to see if the Orks are actually managing to make grounds over here. So it does look like they've got a clean-up crew going on, taking out the couple of stragglers that we've got over here, which actually appear to be the Death Corps of Krieg themselves with the Hellball rifles. The Orks are trying to overwhelm them, and they are, bit by bit, just not enough defenders there. Is there going to be enough to hold the orcs in place over here? I don't know. We've got a nice little gaggle of troops on this side. Again, though, it mainly looks like conscripts, so they're only going to be auto guns. Going to take a few rounds to take down an orc with these guys. They are backed up by the Kriegers on the far left-hand side of their flank, but the Kriegers are taking losses from the Daka that's firing across the river towards them here. And the orcs trying to find any gap with which they can exploit. Now, the main problem that they're going to have... Oh, look at this as well. Look at that. The Daka from the orcs has just eradicated a load of the Death Corps over this side. But yeah, the problem that the Imperials are going to start having is that their firepower is going to get divided, which is not going to be good. Oh my god, look at all these as well. That Orc Daka has been going to town on the Imperial conscripts. A single round is probably enough realistically to kill most of the conscripts here. And that has been brutally effective. The firepower for the Imperials dwindling bit by bit with each death here. And the Orcs still have 1.1 million remaining on the field. Quite a significant amount of Orcs still left to get into the combat. Look at the horde. It looks like we've barely put a dent in it at all. They're just amassed here. There's so many of them. And that's not even including the horde that's made its way over this side. So I'm getting a little bit worried now for the Imperial Guard defenders. There's only 39,000 of them remaining, and there's a fair decent chunk of orcs now that have established a foothold on this side of the bridge. So ultimately, I do think that we might end up losing most of the units over here, but they are going to extract a higher price from the orcs for this. Bit by bit, though, the orcs are claiming ground, death by death, inch by inch. And I love this. I don't know why, but I've got a feeling that this is artificial under here. That's not a natural hill. These are actually orc corpses all piled up high. Let's go have a look under the water on this side. So I've got to... Oh, God, you can hardly see under here now because it's also blood red. We can barely see underneath. And yeah, look, that is actually orc corpses all piled up there. That's kind of crazy. That's a lot of dead orcs that we've managed to pile up. But even with 1 million losses, we still yet have not built a corpse bridge for the orcs. Ultimately, the orcs then really rely on the Daka, which you can see is just laying down a lot of covering fire at the moment. Just smashing into the side. Look at this, though. The Krieger reinforcements now, shovels in hand, realizing that they've got a problem on their hands. It seems that the flank is once again faltering. So more Imperials are going to come over to this side to try and plug the gap. The Orcs have got thousands of units across the bridge now, though. It looks like they're all cleared up on that side, yeah. There's absolutely no Imperial Guard down there, nor over this side. So yeah, this small gaggle of troops here is all that stands between the Orcs and their ultimate flanking victory. Having said that, here comes the rest of the Krieger Armada now, shovels in hand. They don't want this flank to fall at all, and I cannot blame them. They need that firepower. 26,000 troops remain on the field here for the Imperial Guard. They've got to use that superior firepower to really up their game here. But having lost 64,000 and only killing just over 1 million, yeah, it's not looking good, is it? It's not looking good for the Imperials, especially as that flank starts to falter over there. I'm really starting to get worried for them. Now all the artillery's been taken out as well, and it also looks like quite a few of the Lehman Russes have also been taken out now. I'm not seeing any tank fire coming out to the Imperial lines. It's all down to the conscripts and the Kriegers, as well as the Halbor rifles. Is that going to be enough to hold back this big Orky war? Well, only time will tell, ladies and gentlemen. Kriegers, though, doing an excellent job of plugging that gap on the bridge at the moment, stopping that Orky advance, allowing that firepower to really nail these Storm Boys as they try to force their way across them. But I've noticed that there's quite a few knobs now thrown into the mix, so this is where it's really going to start getting difficult here for the Imperial Guard. Let's go back over to this side. Have they managed to secure this once again? Yes, we have. Okay, so we've got a Krieger line starting to form. That's good news for the Imperial defenders. Buys them the time they need to lay down that covering fire, extract as many kills as they can from the Orky horde. Just look at this floor. Completely littered in bodies, no matter where you look on this battlefield now. The Orcs coming down to their last 1 million troops. Is that going to be enough to carry them forward to victory? Again, it's all coming down to the narrowness of the bridge. The bridge is not allowing them reinforcements to come through. But this army has been significantly halved down. I can't believe how many conscripts are actually dead on this side. The bodies all just piled up in a horrific manner. Lost but not forgotten, I would say. Now, can the Orcs actually build a corpse bridge? I don't think they're going to need to, ultimately. I mean, I'm bringing a bit of a naysay here for the Imperial Guard, but they've only got 23,000 troops remaining, and some of them are going to have to be committed to that flank, which means that the firepower is dwindling, which means that the Orcs can get closer and closer. But having said that, there's actually still a significant amount of Kriegers here, look, waiting to get to that front line. And also, having said that, oh my god, look at how many dead Imperial conscripts are over here. So that's one thing that makes it hard to tell. Sometimes it's hard to tell who's alive and who's not when you zoomed out a little bit, because from a distance that kind of looks like we've got an entire Imperial flank over there, until you zoom in and realize that most of them are dead. Some Orcs are actually rejoining the main line over here. Okay, that's kind of interesting. Are the Orcs giving up on this flank? I hope not, because this is doing really well for them. That diversion of firepower is going to be key to Orky victory here. Still 1 million Orcs though. The Imperials need to up their kill counter here, rapido, because they are losing units at a rapid rate also. Now the Kriegers are doing a really good job of holding the Orcs back so far. But yeah, the fact that most of the tanks have now been taken out, most of the shovel troops have been committed to the fight already, and the Ork Daka is still on the other side, laying down so much covering fire. The Imperials can't really do too much about it, because they're having to deal with the Orcs who are coming across the bridge. That's just the simple fact. They can't let up their concentrated firepower, otherwise the Orcs will get across. If they don't let up that concentrated fire, they're going to be picked off one by one. It's a catch-22 for them at the moment. But I'm really interested. I want to see what happens with this flank, because so many Orcs keep pouring in now. But they have been reduced to whatever they can get across the bridge. There's no more death ball that has been built up. The Imperials did manage to deal with most of them that had gathered on this side. So it's like they've almost got a foothold, but what they've really got is a bit of breathing room. Yeah, I wouldn't say the Orcs have established themselves on this side of the battlefield at all yet. What they have done is given themselves a little bit of space, a little bit of an opportunity to get across the bridge without being punished. Now, the other worrying thing is that these guys are getting forced back bit by bit. And should they join up with this main army, yeah, the firepower really is going to start getting divided here. So many of the Kriegers have actually unfortunately died before they ever got to that front line. Once again, thanks to that Orky Daka. And the Orcs are just pouring the reinforcements into this now. They can taste victory in the air. So what have they got? 1.2, coming up to 1.3 million losses. Significant amount, but 71,000 losses here for the Imperials. And again, that Orky Daka just going to town on the conscripts over this side. Just laid into them thick and fast. Yeah, and Imperial numbers are dropping rapidly. I'm getting really worried. So, I'm going to hit another little time-lapse camera over here. I kind of want to keep an eye on both sides, though, because I don't want that flank to fall and us to not notice. So, we are going to have a little bit of a zoomed-out one here, but we should be able to see what happens. We'll be back as soon as something changes on the battlefield. Well, ladies and gentlemen, here it is. This may be the swan song of the Imperial Guard. The Orcs finally getting across the bridge here. Storm Boys rioting, finally happy to be on the other side. Imperial losses rapidly mounting now. It's kind of insane how the Orcs have just managed to persevere. They have been brought down to under 1 million troops, though. That is quite significant. Again, the Imperial Guard defenders were outnumbered like 100 to 1 here. So yeah, they've done really well to do it, go this far. But yeah, that flanking maneuver's coming in. The Orcs establishing their foothold on the opposite side of the river now and are ploughing their way into the conscript units who, quite frankly, are not going to stand much chance against the orcs. This may be all she wrote here. We're down to the last 11,000 Imperial Guard defenders. And man, oh man, all these conscripts are making a good count for themselves here. Taking out as many of the orcs as they possibly can. And there's just so many remaining. Look at that. That's just an insane amount of orcs. The orc Daka here really changed the tide of the battle. The entire flank now has been lost. And the orcs are free to push across that bridge. Looks like the Death Corps of Krieg once again tried to take up the mantle of defense in this flank. The Kriegers have really committed a lot to that flank to try and hold it back, but ultimately numbers won the game. And the orcs had the numbers. Look at this now. A firm foothold has been established by the orcs. I don't think the Imperials are going to be able to push them back, not without the support of artillery and tank fire that they had previously. In fact, a lot of the last fire has also died down now, so it's all coming down to these auto guns here. The Imperial Guard backing up ever so slightly, but every time they do, they're giving more and more ground here to the advancing Orky army, who's now pretty much coming across the bridge unimpeded, which is kind of insane. Look, no firepower has been laid down upon them because the Imperial Guard are too busy dealing with all the orcs that are on their flank and already on the opposite side of the bridge. This is brutal. The Kriegers entering into a pincer maneuver here, caught between the two armies. That flanking maneuver coming in, sweeping in and sweeping over the Imperial defense here. Meanwhile, the rest of the orcs coming across the bridge. Yeah, this is looking brutal now. 9,000 remain for the Imperials. Things aren't looking hopeful here, ladies and gents. Things are not looking good for our defenders. It's just, yeah, look at this. Virtually no firepower now is concentrated on the bridge whatsoever. And yeah, this is going to be it. This is going to be the last stand of the Imperial Guard. We've actually got a really healthy bunch of... oh, pardon me. We've got a really healthy bunch of conscripts over this side. All balled together, which is really good for the defenders, because that means that's an amassed amount of firepower, which is what the Imperial Guard are really famous for. Meanwhile, the orcs marauding their way down from the hills over here as an oppressive miasma sets on the field here for the Imperial Guard. Oh my gosh. The orcs are just storming forward mirthlessly at the moment. And I cannot blame them. They've been held away from combat for too long. The war has reached a frenzy point, and they are extracting extreme revenge here on the last remnants of the Imperial Guard. And honestly, I'm just going to time-lapse this last little bit. This is going to take a little while for him to clean up, but yeah, the Imperials are going to try and retreat across towards the right-hand side of the screen here. Let's see if the orcs can catch up with them. Back in a second. Well then, folks, here it is, the final stand of the Imperial Guard. 600 troops left, and it doesn't look like there's 600 here, so I don't know where the rest of them are, but yeah, that has been absolutely brutal. Now, what's really interesting about this is I've tested this battle twice before I started recording it, and in both of the tests, the Imperial Guard won, but just about, I would say. They had probably maybe 5,000 troops left, and they managed to mop up the orcs, so been really interesting to see this for me. The orcs actually managed to do it on their third attempt here. Of course, when it comes to recording. But look at that. I've got to say, the Imperials did a really good job. 1.3 million kills here. Massively superior army that they were against. So much Orc Daka was on the field. It was absolutely insane. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, the Death Corps of Krieg were never, ever gonna allow the orcs to win this fight. And as the last Kriegsman falls, he reached inside of his backpack, pressed a little button, and set off his pocket-sized nuclear bomb. And as always, I do hope you had a blast. I know I did. Please do comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And until next time, you wonderful internet sausages. Peace.